Welcome to the Mummy Movement podcast with me, Sam Sardette, where we talk about the highs, the lows, and just general mum relatable stuff. And today I've got my gorgeous friend Jade, aka Feel at Home Inspo, fellow Essex mama, with 3 gorgeous boys, wifey, the lot. So welcome. Thanks for coming, babe.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. So obviously we're a mummy podcast. So we'll start with, I suppose mum life with you.
Yeah.
So your Gio, how old is he now?
He'll be 10 in March.
That is crazy, isn't it?
I know, double digits. It makes me so sad.
Oh, but I feel like he is like your little bestie.
Oh, he is. 100%. He's my best friend.
Yeah, that is so sweet.
I know.
So obviously 10 years ago, what would you say that you always knew you wanted to be a mum? And
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. But I always knew as well I wanted kids younger. For me, even though I had like career sort of aspirations and things like that, I always wanted to be a younger mum.
yeah.
I don't know why, but it was just always something that I wanted to do.
Yeah, because how old were you when you had him then?
I was 23 when I fell pregnant and 24
Yeah.
when I had him, which
That's
ain't
really
young, but it is still
feel
young.
In our like mum and dads back in the day, that's quite
That was
common.
normal,
But
yeah.
nowadays that's
It's
quite
young.
yeah.
Exactly.
And did you obviously you tried for him, and like how did you
Yeah.
find like
Oh, I fell pregnant so easily. You've
Oh,
only got to look
really?
at me and I'm pregnant.
oh god, close your eyes.
I'm as fertile as they come.
Well, that's good. That's lucky.
Yeah, no, I fell really easily with him. But yeah, and the whole thing, I had a really easy pregnancy.
Yeah.
But he was a monster of a baby.
Oh,
He was
really?
10-pound born.
Oh, well, that leads me to our next question. Like,
Yes.
how was your birth?
Horrendous. The whole
Oh.
thing from start to finish. It was such a big baby. And I went in like 2 weeks before because I was having contractions, and he was actually dilated, and they done an emergency scan and they were like, he's £8.15. And she was like an older sister, like midwife. And I went, can I swear?
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
I was like, fuck off. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, oh my God. Like, even that in itself, I was like, £8.15. And I thought that was big.
Yeah.
And then they
blimey,
wouldn't induce me. Like, my mum was like, break her waters. Like, he's big enough, blah, blah, blah. They were like, no, they sent me home. And then I was literally, so a couple of family members, this was before social media and things like that.
Yes.
So you weren't really posting stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like family members and friends knew that they thought I was in labour. So the next
course.
minute I was down Romford the next day getting a pedicure, and someone walked in and was like, I thought you was in labour. And I was like, no. I was like, but I am going to be at some point because I'm already dilating. So I need to get a pedicure. Obviously.
Priorities. Right. I mean, tell me
Exactly.
you're from Essex without telling me. That is
Exactly.
brilliant.
So I was like, I need a pedi. And then, and then literally my waters broke naturally.
Right.
2 weeks later, after I'd stuffed my face with a Ferrero Rocher waffle at Creams.
Oh no. That's probably what done it, babe.
That's what done it.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
And then, but obviously they'd banked all my blood because he was obviously going to be a big baby. And within 2 weeks, he'd moved to £10. So
that's
it
not
was
fair.
huge.
That's unfair that they done that to you.
Yeah, so I had a lovely pregnancy, but a horrendous birth. Like, I tore really badly.
Yeah.
I burst all the blood vessels on my face. I looked like something out the Matrix.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was bad.
Really?
Yeah, like I had red veins all over my face. All my blood vessels in my eyes.
from pushing?
broke from pushing.
Wow. So you gave birth to him naturally? In the end?
Naturally.
Jesus.
Just gas and air.
Well
know.
done,
I
babe.
soldiered it.
Bloody hell.
I don't know well. I don't know. I think you just go into like another world, didn't you?
I always say that.
It's like an out of body experience, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Like I always say, like when I think about being in labour, I was there, but I weren't there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
I always say that.
But then it did like panic me because his heart rate started to drop. So did mine. Then they rushed the surgeon in.
yeah.
And then my mum and Trevor were just like, one more push. We just need one more big push. And I just literally gave it everything I physically could.
It's like the instinct in
Yeah.
you is like, get
Yeah.
this baby
I
out
need to
safely
get
and
him
I
out.
need to survive as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like his feet was pushed back, like they were bent over where he was so squashed and so big.
Yeah. Oh my
So
God.
yeah, it
oh,
was really
bless him.
that's what put me off for another one.
I was going to say, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So recovery wise probably would have been tough.
I had 36 stitches.
Jade.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was torn front to back.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you know what they say for like your other half? It's like watching your favourite pub burn down, isn't it? Poor Trev. But
Is
safe
that-
to
for God's
say,
sake. Well,
it's
you got-
come a long
well,
way.
lucky you were young and you could
Yeah.
just heal up quick after that.
Well, yeah, I did heal really well. I mean, at first it was like do or die. I thought, oh no, I'm never gonna, like, you do panic because you think, am I ever gonna feel pleasure again? Am I ever gonna? Do you know what I mean?
am I
Like,
ever
you don't know. Like, you don't, because
Yeah.
obviously you feel so sore and so
Yeah.
torn, and it's just like you just don't know what you're gonna feel or what it's gonna be like. Obviously,
yeah.
the body's amazing,
Oh,
so
it is
it recovers, it
it's-
heals.
It's the reason why women give birth and not men.
Yeah, 100%. Trev could never.
Oh God, no! They moan about bloody colds,
could
didn't
never.
they?
Yeah, yeah.
I just feel like I say it all the time. I'm like they prepare you so much. Well, not so much, but they're so focused on preparing you for the birth and getting you through that.
Yeah.
Once you have the baby, it's like see you later, off you pop. Like you're on your own there, and
Absolutely.
I think that's the scary part of it. But I mean, once you had Gio though, like, did you just find it just naturally was like?
Yeah,
You
I
loved
think
it.
I was quite lucky. Like, I didn't suffer with any sort of postnatal depression or anything like that. I definitely had the baby blues. I know I didn't stop crying for like weeks and
I'm
weeks.
not surprised
and weeks.
after that birth as
I
well.
was really
like, it must have been
overwhelmed, and
hard.
I was young. Like when I think back now, I'm like,
Yeah.
I was young.
Yeah.
So it is overwhelming, but I was lucky. I did take to motherhood really well.
Yeah.
There was nothing really. They did tell me he had, I think it's Erb's palsy. Like literally just dropped it on me in the hospital and said he'd never throw a ball or never, like, he was disabled. And I was just like, oh my
But
God.
once he was born?
Yeah, and like left him with a leaflet and like was like, ta-da. And then he had to go to like physio. It was like the funniest thing. It weren't really funny, but it was funny because I'm looking at my baby and I think, as like a mum, like your instincts, if there's something wrong with your child, you know?
Yeah.
I knew there wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm looking at his progress. Like, obviously you have like your healthcare visits, don't you? And stuff like that. And like, he was so strong. Like, I remember him being like, really, I can't remember the actual age, but really young. And he was already pushing himself up to, they're pushing their heads up.
Yeah.
He was showing so much strength. And we were going to this physio, and Kevin, the physio, bless him. He was
I love how you remember his name.
Kevin, I'll never forget it. But like, we used to go to this like baby physio, and we'd be there, and all he used to do was go, "Oh, that's a nice stretch." And I'm like, why are we wasting
Why
our
are we
time?
here?
My kid is fine. And it wasn't like, me being in denial. Like, I just knew he was fine.
Yeah.
And as sure as we knew, he was. Like, literally, I think after about 4 or 5 months, I was just like, the healthcare visit was like, there's nothing wrong with his mobility whatsoever. He's absolutely fine. We had him checked over again by a specialist. They were like, he's fine. So, it was a scare for nothing. But it was horrible getting that information and being like, your child could be disabled.
Yeah, but if you hadn't, I suppose, exactly. But I suppose there's two sides of it, really, because it's like, at least you can say you did that in case there was anything.
Yeah.
But equally, you've had to go through that for no reason.
For no
really.
reason, yeah.
That is so obviously, when you met your husband now, Trev, he already had 2 sons and stuff. So do you feel like you kind of was naturally quite maternal
That prepared
with them?
me, I
And
think.
yeah.
They were 7 when I met them. And
Are they twins?
They're twins.
Yeah, twins, yeah. I've
And
met
they're
them. Very
nearly-
gorgeous boys.
Gorgeous boys. And they're nearly 20 now.
Wow.
So it's been a journey, a really amazing, happy, lovely journey that really made me mature, I think, as a young girl. I mean, I met them when I was 22.
Yeah.
So to take on 2 kids that were 7 at 22, my mum was like, "Are you sure?" You know what mums are like. They're like, "Are you sure you're going to take this on?" Like, you're really young, and obviously there's a bigger age gap between Trevor and I. But I was like, yeah, like, I love him. And I remember, like, we waited. Like, Trevor wanted to make sure I was the right woman. And he was really, and that made me really love him even more because he was so, like, worried about someone meeting his kids. And he waited, like, 9 months, I think.
I suppose that shows that he's a good dad as well.
Yeah,
So it's-
absolutely. Yeah. And, but when I met him, it was just, we got on, and now we're like best mates. Like, I'm very, like, quite childish. Like, I like pranks, and I like having a little drive in the car to McDonald's and getting a McFlurry. I'm still like, I think somewhere there's still that like 16, 17-year-olds in me, and they love it.
I think it's like, it's hard, isn't it? Because like, it could go, I suppose I've never been in the situation, but you hear stories, don't you? And it can go one way or the other with being a stepmom and or a step parent in general.
Yeah.
But like, do you feel like it's your journey as a stepmother has been quite easy, or?
Yeah, with them, our relationship has been easy.
Yeah.
I've never met their mum. That's the way we've chose. That's how the kids wanted it as well.
Yeah.
We've never integrated as a family like that. It's all very separate. That's what works for us. It might not work for others.
Yeah.
But that's how we like to keep it. I think especially if the other parent involved is more in a negative, toxic space.
Yeah.
I wanted to separate that from me and my family.
Yeah.
So, and the kids were happy to, and we always used to say when they get older, they'll understand, they'll know.
Yeah.
Which naturally that happened. I never wanted to be in a space where I wanted to talk negatively about their mum or anything like that, because children are children and they don't need that.
To have that level of maturity at such a, like, as in for yourself, like at such a young age, because you could have been one of these young, well, I say young girls. At the time, you don't feel young, really. You feel we are naturally quite mature, I suppose. Being quite a generalist here, but you know, either way, it's like to have that level of maturity of like, you know, I'm really happy to take on, you know, take on the stepmother role. You know, I'm happy to do whatever works for everyone with their mum, and it's not like people could be a bit bitter about it, couldn't they? So that's amazing, and it sounds like you've had like a really good experience.
I've had a positive experience, but I think that's because we kept it separate.
Yes,
I think had I have used that situation to try and score points or to try and prove who was more important, or, you know, wanted to weaponize the situation, it could have been a different experience. But I think keeping it separate kept the peace, and that's what worked for us.
And it works for you. Amazing, amazing. So, I mean, moving on from kind of mum life a little bit, obviously day to day you've got your Instagram, Feel at Home Inspo, which I love.
Thank
you. I've always loved following you because of your home. Well, in fact, we followed each other because we shared the same hairdresser.
We did.
Who's amazing.
Yes.
But I just like, you know, it's just so, I think as a woman, it's home interiors and things like that and design, it's so nice. But have you always, you've got a real eye for it, basically. You've got an eye for things that look good, like your page looks great, and how you present things is like really done well. Have you always had like an eye for interiors? Have you always been into it?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I grew up on a council estate on top of a co-op, so very humble beginnings. I didn't grow up with money. I was in a single parent home up until the age of 5. So, you know, I grew up with very humble beginnings, but just because, you know, you're less privileged than others, or you don't have a lot of money, or your budget's smaller, really and truly that was the purpose of my page, was to say, you don't need a load of money to have a nice home. You can create your own sanctuary. I believe every person, and, you know, I'm talking maybe from a women's perspective because we are women. And of course, everyone deserves a nice home. But speaking from a woman's perspective, that's your sanctuary, right? That's where we spend our time. Like, that's where we lay our heads, we raise our children, you know, all of those things. We go through breakups, we go through, you know, friendships, all these things, all these experiences happen between these walls. And it should feel a safe space. And I feel like you create that space by creating an aesthetic that feels safe and comfortable for you. Now, that may be different for different people. What that is, who knows? You might like loads of plants. Some people like minimalist, you know, interiors, and they don't like clutter, where some people feel better when they've got all of their photos and clutter about, you know, it just depends what works for you. But, you know, what I wanted to show was that you could have £100, but you can absolutely use that £100 to go out to your B&Ms, your Primarks, your Ranges, come home, style a space, and make it feel like it's yours, it's your individual space.
Yeah, and I think you do that so well, because if you go on your page and you look at how you style spaces, you'd think you spent a fortune on it. And then you're like, right, okay, this is what I've used, this. That's £12, that's £20. And I think that's why it does so well, because it's relatable, but also exactly what you said. You create a space that looks calm, and it's like you know, got that real luxurious look,
Yeah.
but not going to break the bank, and
No.
anyone can achieve that.
100%. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, like, we're in a cost of living crisis. The average person, you know, is struggling one way or another. You know, what that looks like to other people, again, it's all down to individual experiences. But, you know, everybody is suffering or struggling one way or another, like the average person, you know. And I am the average person, so we know what it's like. You know, we need two incomes, we need each other to support each other. So, you know, we are that average person. And for me, I feel like a lot of people now are more frugal. So many more people are going into local charity shops, so many people are shopping on Vinted. That's great. Repurpose, reuse. It's not always even just about consuming things and buying. It can also be like going to charity shops. Like, I love a mixture of, you know, vintage and new. I'm very much a modern vintage person. I like that mixture of that interior, that aesthetic, and you'll probably see that on my page. You know, I'm probably guilty of not shopping secondhand for clothing, but for home stuff, when it comes to crockery, you know, small pieces like butter dishes. Like, I go Columbia Road. I love Columbia Road in Bethnal Green. It's one of my favourite places to visit. And there you've got your vintage shops, your charity shops, and all the little antique stalls. And I love looking for little gems for the house. You know, it might be a lamp or a frame. Amazing. Love it.
I like. Do you know what? I think it is like a thing. It's like an exciting thing. And I think that's why women do love doing that. I've never. I mean, I love a good home bargains B&M trip. I've always said I'd love to do something like that, and I'll have to come with you next time. I will.
We'll go Columbia Road.
Yeah, we'll go
Sunday.
buy some flowers.
No,
go
it
get a
feeds
bagel.
your soul. Like, it is literally the best. Like, I love going, like, through the summer. Most Sundays, if I can, I'll go and I'll buy me flowers. I have a little mooch down the markets and find, it might be a bit of artwork, and I love that there's a story behind it. And sometimes I collect books, and, you know, someone might be having a baby and they'll be like Beatrix Potter or something like that, and I think,
you are literally such an old soul inside,
I
aren't you?
am.
Like, that's
definitely.
probably why you've probably felt like ready at quite a young age with having Geo and stuff. So going back, so you've got this Instagram, which I love. And what did you, because I don't actually know this about, what did you do before you had your Instagram?
I was a teacher.
No, you were not.
I was.
How did I not know that? Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah, I was a teacher.
What did you teach?
English and maths.
At secondary school?
Yeah.
Blimey.
At secondary school,
So you have got a brain cell then?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, honey. Don't underestimate me.
So did you go uni?
No, I did further education, and I got my diploma later on. So I actually did it in adult college.
So did you do this around Geo, like as a mum?
Yeah, how old was Geo? Yeah, Geo. Yeah, I was pregnant with Geo whilst I got my diploma whilst I was pregnant.
No way.
Yeah.
That is
amazing.
amazing.
I finished because I started before I fell pregnant with Geo, and at the time I was working as a classroom assistant in a special needs school. So I did my specialism in SEN. So I'm actually trained to, like, recognise all different sort of educational needs and things like that. So I did my teaching specialism around children who had dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, you know, even down to Down syndrome children. So I really kind of was focused on, I've always been like, I don't know, nurturing person.
Yeah.
And no matter what I've been in, I've always wanted to make a difference. So I've never gone down the normal teaching route. So even in secondary school, I would only go to the schools that needed that extra nurturing. So I would work in more, you would say, underprivileged areas where children that were struggling, you know, because of their home life or for whatever reason.
That's amazing.
And then I ended up, my final job before I left teaching was actually for an independent company. Two guys who were very wealthy had started up an independent school off their own back, completely self-funded. And they needed an English and maths teacher to teach the kids functional skills. So basically, to cut a long story short, if you can't do a GCSE, you can do a functional skills, and it's basically an equivalent qualification. It's recognised within employment.
Wow.
So these kids had been chucked out of school for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They would then go to this place, and it was a very hands-on place. They would learn like cooking skills, farming skills, very hands-on. So they were out on the farms and doing things, and then they would have a couple of hours a day where they'd do their maths and English.
Yeah.
It weren't easy.
I can imagine. Like,
I mean, like, I had kids that would leave my lesson to go and deal drugs for their mum.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. I can imagine like you were dealing with, if it's like, you know, in quotation marks, underprivileged schools, you know, you're going to get people that are probably from backgrounds like that. So, I mean, you've got to be tough skin for that.
But I grew up like that. And I think that's where, like, not tooting my own trumpet, but every teacher before me, barring one, really didn't have success with them. And it's because they weren't relatable.
Yeah.
And, you know, they would swear at me. I mean, it's a very unconventional way of like teaching. It wasn't the norm. It was very much chaotic. It was, they would go like, fuck you. But I'd be like, well, fuck you too. And they'd go, what? You can't say that. And I'd be like, says who?
Yeah.
If you're going to tell me to fuck off, I'm going to tell you to fuck off.
But that's probably...
That's how I got them on board.
I was going to say, that probably grew their respect with you. 100%. Like, oh, she's all right.
Yeah,
like,
she's on a level. Yeah. And I knew conventional teaching wasn't going to work for them. So I had to bring myself down to their level.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I've got one specific student who she's now pregnant. She's got a nursery qualification and she still messages me to this day. And she's like, you changed my life. Like, if it wasn't for you, I would never have gone on to do the things that I did. And I thank you so much. I love you. And I just think, like, even just to, I know I changed more than one child, but just to specifically have that connection with one girl who's now in her 20s. And I think I changed, you know, I helped change and shape her future. And now she's going to become a mum and she's messaging me for like mummy advice. And it's lovely.
So obviously, challenging and whatnot. Did you leave teaching because your Instagram kicked off? Like,
it was COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So talk to me about how that transitioned then. Like, how
so
did you do that?
I was, of course, teaching, and then we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
And because it was, you know, an unconventional way of teaching and stuff like the school set up, it was all taken on a very different way and a different, you know, sort of angle, should you say, of being able to reach the kids and it was all become very chaotic. And I thought, do you know what? I just finished with my previous year's kids. So they'd all left, they'd all finished, they'd received their qualifications, and it was starting with a new lot. And I thought, do you know what? With COVID, with lockdown, obviously I had the twins with me half the time, if not more, plus Gio. Gio was in reception. So I had 3 kids at home, you know, one 100%, 3 70% at the time, who I was having to homeschool.
I was going to say homeschooling.
The twins were in secondary school. So I was like, it was 3 kids. Trevor was still working because he was what was it used to be called, like an essential worker or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Like he was
what
part
does he
of
do?
that. So he works for private medical supplies.
Oh blimey.
So obviously,
it was
it was like he was going to work. So it was me sort of holding the fort at home, and I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to take some time off. So really, it was just taking time off to really put my all into the kids, because I knew the kids were going to suffer if I didn't.
Yeah.
And I did that, but then what I then, you know, I was like, I've bit off more than I can chew here, because it's like Johnny's got 5 apples and, you know, Trisha takes 3.
I mean, the fact that you came from teaching and I mean, I couldn't do it. No. I could not.
There's a reason why I didn't qualify for primary school kids. I've got no patience for it. Give me a teenager any day. I can rhyme and reason with them. But small kids, I ain't got time. I ain't got patience.
Well, at least he was reception. Reception, you just do a bit of colouring. Bit of drawing.
It was. But I felt like the teacher was really full on, and it was just the whole thing. I just think being indoors, everybody felt it. You know, your freedom, you almost felt like got taken away.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was very overwhelming. And I will say, I'm not a mumsy mum.
Yes.
You know. Everyone's got their own way, but I am not a mumsy mum. I'm not that mum who wants to have 4 or 5 kids and spend my entire life making Play-Doh and baking breads.
Do you know what? It's so funny you say that, because I'm quite similar to you. We're maternal people, but I'm the same. I'm not really a mumsy mum. No. I mean, what does that? I mean, I suppose that means
it's like
you dedicate. Like, obviously our lives are, we want to give our kids the best life ever. But equally, we'll
You
never
still wanna
lose us.
keep-
You
yeah.
want to have your own life as well.
100%. And I think it's some mums, their identity is being a mum.
Yeah.
Which is great, lovely. Like, it's different strokes for different folks. If you grow up and become, you know, somewhat of a young adult and think, I just want to be a mum, and some women genuinely do have those aspirations, and that's great. Like, you know, that's what you want to do. And if you can achieve that and then become that, and that's your dream, amazing.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what though, because before the girls started, my girls started school, well, Cece just started school, and Sorella's only a couple of days in preschool, but I've always obviously had them full time. And then my mates that have gone into full time work from their kids being an early age, and they've never really been like, I could say, you know, I've always been a full time mum, as well as other bits that I do.
Yeah.
But my mates are like, how the fuck do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, I can't do, like, after the weekend, I'm ready to go back to work.
Yeah.
Because it is being a mum, being a full-time mum,
It's a
that's actually
full-time
the
job.
hardest. That's actually the hardest job in the world.
100%.
Like, it's not even a fact that it's not even just being like a mumsy mum, but it's like, I don't think I could actually do it mentally.
There's no annual leave. There's no sick days. You don't go on a lunch break.
Yeah.
It's the only job in the world that you don't get paid to do.
Yeah. Love.
and there's no benefits. You know, it's just out of pure love, like you say. And you know, you want the best for your kids. And you know, Cherry is the most important thing in my life. You know, we don't need to sit here and explain how much we love our kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's immeasurable. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. But equally, I never wanted that to just be my identity.
Yes.
And I think that was my reason for not having more children. Yes, I had a traumatic birth. I wasn't ready to have children soon after him because of the whole trauma of it. It really did overwhelm me. It knocked me for six. Then obviously I qualified for teaching. My sort of teaching career took off. Then we was hit with COVID, and I definitely didn't want to have a baby within that lockdown period. No one knew where the world was going. It was, so then you sort of, I feel like we lost 2 years.
Yeah, we did.
You know, I feel like that was a whole twilight zone. And then we got out of it. And Joe, at that point, I think he was 5, 6, when it really started to like take level playing field again. And then it was like, I want to go back into the world, and I want to, you know, I'd started my page in lockdown, and I was focusing on my page. So that was when my Instagram page was born within lockdown, because I was having that time off, and then I needed that creative outlet.
Yes.
And I was like, I always do this anyway. Like, I'm always shopping. I'm always taking pictures of things online. I'll make mood boards just for my own sort of sanity, really, and my own sort of creative outlet. Why not start a page on it? I didn't even have a personal Instagram then. So I actually didn't even know about really what was working, what wasn't. Was someone doing what I was doing? I didn't know. But I just had this sort of I was on the toilet, as most of our best thinking
I love that.
and ideas are born on the toilet. I was actually on the toilet, and I was like, oh, I might start blogging about this and just see where it goes. And I wrote down all the things that I wanted to achieve. Yeah. And I just started, and it grew and it grew and it grew. That. And then, you know, thankfully it worked. Yeah. I gave myself a year, and I said, if I don't start earning out of it after a year, I'll go back to teaching.
God, that's fair.
And that was 5 years ago.
That's amazing. It's so amazing. And do you know what? I think it is like, as a mum, you do have to look at avenues of earning an income whilst also being a mum. Yeah. So it is difficult, because it's like, you could have gone back to teaching and whatever else, but it's like, if you could find something that you can fit around your kids, because it's not as easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go get a job in the city and work 5 days a week. Like you can't have that luxury of being, you basically can't be picky. You can't be picky. You've got so if you are able to do something like that where people can relate to it, but like so you've gone from like teaching to, did you always had you never wanted to be an interior designer or anything like that? You just
I never wanted to be an interior designer, mostly because anybody I know that's an interior designer said that the people they work for are horrendous and so rude. And
apparently the money is crap.
Yeah. So
unless you're working for the big
exactly.
celebs,
and if you are, they're probably arseholes. Yeah. And I don't do well with like rude people. No. I just think it costs nothing to be nice.
Yeah.
And I just think I didn't want to be in that world. And again, you know, I would even love to do event styling and event planning. I would. Yeah. But I can't do that right now because it would take me away from my kids too much.
Yeah, but that's
I would
it.
be away from home. So that's maybe something for, long down the future, maybe 10, 15 years down the line, I might start dabbling in bits and pieces, or, a little bit in between. Who knows? With being, a content creator, it opens up so many different avenues.
Yes.
It really is, a whirlwind of a career. As you know, like no week, no month's the same. Every year's different.
That's the thing. It's not for everyone. And I think people don't realise sometimes it's actually very stressful, because you don't know if you're going to get work through it, or you don't know, it's not the most stable income. It definitely isn't. But then equally, it's the same as any job really. There's pros and cons of everything. And if you can make it work around the kids, that's mainly what a lot of mums do it for, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Through just doing it through that. So
absolutely.
I mean, talking about plans, obviously we're, coming into a new year now.
Yeah.
Where do you hope to, what have you got plans for this year with your page or anything else?
This year, I'm definitely sort of branching out, because I think naturally as you grow and you become more known on a platform, people become more invested in, I think we had the wedding and all of that. And people became more invested in us as a family. And there is so many different moving parts to my life that I don't share. And I actually really do want to start, sharing those things, because I think it can help people. There's so many different moving parts to what makes a family or someone's life work. So I definitely want to branch out into more lifestyle family content as well, keeping it centered around home, but as well not just niching myself to that, and just obviously sharing more of what goes on, because we're like the Brady Bunch, and it is funny, we're always having a laugh, and there's always things going on. So I definitely want to show that side of us more.
And I think as well, like your whole family dynamic, and I love when you do your little videos of the movie nights and things like that, and it's nice. It is. You're right. And people get invested. And
and being a boy mum, raising boys. I don't have girls. I am a daughter, but I've never had daughters, so I don't know what it's like to raise girls. But I've got sisters. I've got a very female dominant family. But I've raised boys. And, for me, it's ensuring that I'm raising boys that become really kind men. And I think that's so important. I think that as women, it's our job. We can't teach a boy to be a man in terms of labeling what a man looks like, in terms of masculine energy. Naturally, we don't carry a masculine energy. So they really always need, whether it be their dad or a father figure, to really show them that masculine energy side of life and allow them to be able to tap into that. But then I think equally boys need that female energy to show them that actually, it's okay to show your emotions. It's okay to be sensitive. Even I talk to Gio about my periods. I'm so open with him about my periods because I think it's so important, because if I don't and I hide it away, he's going to think that that's something that's not normal, or something that he wants to shy away from when he's older. And the reality is, he's going to be a boyfriend. He's going to be a husband. And I'm like, listen, and he goes to me Mummy, when he was younger, why? Because you're in the toilets with him, you might be in Lakeside or a shopping centre, and you've got to take him in the cubicle, and he's like, oh my God, Mummy, you're bleeding from your nunu. And I'm like, don't panic.
Oh, don't. I know.
Honestly,
we call it, Cece's just Mum, why have you got red wee-wee?
Exactly.
Just sometimes it happens.
Because, you can't hide away from it, because they're little and, they see these things. And I just think you should be open with your kids, especially girls are going to go through that anyway. You're going to have that journey with your daughters where they start their periods, and you're gonna have that chat, and they're gonna feel comfortable in their bodies, and they're gonna know how to look after themselves. But boys miss that. Boys don't get that chat because they don't experience it, but they are going to experience it, because they are going to be around females that are going to be on their periods. So I'm like, why not prepare him for that?
For the period.
Listen, I'm telling you now, when your girlfriend's or whatever's on her period, you go and get a hot water bottle, go and get her the Ben & Jerry's, put on her favourite film,
great,
rub her feet. And I'm like, she's going to be thanking me one day. I'm going to hopefully have this daughter-in-law that's like, oh my gosh, you have raised
So, I mean, I feel like you and Trevor are an amazing dynamic, as a duo together. So for them to see that, I always say it's the same with my husband. I was like, it's so important for them to, even if you want to fight, I'm like, if you want to fight me, that's fine. If you want to argue, that's fine. Just do it next door so they can't see it. And it's easier said than done sometimes, but it's if the boys are seeing how Trev treats you and now you two are together, that's gonna, it's they're really lucky that they've got that.
Exactly.
So, but you know what is scary? The thought of the whole boyfriend, girlfriend thing. Like even Cece, she's like, oh yeah, I've got a boyfriend. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're 6 years old.
Yeah.
Has Gio started?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I
Oh.
mean, he's Jamaican and Italian by heritage,
Oh,
so he's
bloody
going to
hell,
be... Oh, yeah.
Well, there you go. You're going to
Yeah.
have to deal with that. And
I know.
he's only started.
And it's crazy because he's just like starting now where, you know, talking about girls and, you know, naturally going through, you know, I was really early when I started puberty. I'm half Italian, so naturally I'm quite dark haired. And, you know, I started puberty young. I was 9 when I started puberty. And he's the same. So he's just starting puberty. And then on the other end, I've got my twins who are turning into men.
Yeah.
Obviously started puberty. They'll hate me even speaking about it.
No, they're going to be like, for God's sake,
But
Jade.
I've gone from bathing them to obviously not bathing them.
Yeah.
And then, you know, them getting their armpit hair and then like desperately, because their twins are always in competition with each other, you know, in you know, no malice between it. They absolutely adore each other, but they're always like, who's got the most facial hair, you know, blah, blah. And I remember going through that phase with them, and now they've both got girlfriends, and it's the first time they've both turned around and said, we want you to meet our girlfriends.
Have you met them?
Not yet, but it's so funny because they've met their mum, but they're like, no, you're the big one. And I'm like, why? And they're like,
that is so
like,
sweet.
Yeah.
But that's probably because they have so much respect for you and they really value your opinion.
Yeah.
So it's like if you, and they'll probably know that if you don't like it, you'd be like, no, it's off.
Yeah,
it's
I've
off.
got very like high standards. I've always said to them, do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to go through these stages where, you know, you're going to think the world's your buffet, but be a bit more choosy. Do you know what I mean?
I like that one, Jade.
Yeah,
that was
like be a bit more choosy. Don't just, you know, put it anywhere. You know that it's an exchange of energy. Like, you're letting these people into your life. Like, and I also, you know, am very open with them about how girls can be, especially in this day and age. You know, I don't ever want them to fall victim to.
Well, we've probably seen it when we were younger as well. Yeah. I was going to say that. I think that would be my worry. It
worries me so much because they don't have a say. It's not their body.
Yeah.
And if a girl, for whatever reason, you know, wants to trap them or they ain't gonna know. And I'm like, no, you asked to see that pill. You asked to see this. Or, you know, it's hard to say wear a condom because when you're in a relationship and you've got a good relationship with someone, no, they're probably not going to want to use condoms, right? And, you know, I was always very honest. I'm like, it's going to feel better without it. Yeah. It's gonna. We all know it does.
That's probably why they love you so much.
Do you know what I mean? But I've always been honest with them because why lie? Do you know what I mean? I want them to know the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
I remember when they were about 14, I used to be like, use a condom. And I Googled what herpes looked like and genital warts. And I was like, this is what it looks like. You will die. Your willy will fall off.
But the scare factor works.
Because I'm like, listen, like, wrap it up. I am not looking to be a nan at 34 or 32 or 33. So, you know, I'm just very hot on them about, you know, keeping safe. And like I say, because I am a girl and I've got girlfriends and I've grew up with girls and I've seen firsthand what girls have done to boys, I've got that angle as well as raising them. So it's quite nice to be able to see both sides of the coin, really, and teach them that, you know, it's great, but watch out for this because, you know, they'll say they're on the pill, they'll say they're this, and then the next minute you're a dad and you've got no say in it. And it is scary. And as well, not only that, it's the whole sexual assault.
Yes, right. You've got to be careful.
Like, you've got to be so careful, like who you're spending time with and who you're letting in.
Honestly, it would worry. I think you worry anyway being a mum, but there's different worries, isn't there? There's different worries with girls, like with them falling pregnant or them do, you know, when they're out and about. But equally, I'd get so worried with boys, like with fights and being out and things like that. But I think no matter what, whether you've got boy or girl, it's you're always going to worry about certain things. And I mean, if they're good boys, like,
you've got to trust them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. It's allowing them to go off out into the world and hope that you've done enough that they make good choices. Yeah. And it doesn't mean they're never going to make a mistake, but it's just preparing them for really bad things like drugs or, you know, somebody accusing them of something heinous like rape or sexual assault or something like that because, you know, they got permission but someone says they didn't have permission. It's just there's so many blurred lines now, I think, and there's so I think like social media has had such a negative impact on the younger generation. And I think a lot of younger girls just want to make money. They want to be famous. They want to, you know, use things to their advantage and sexualize themselves. And I just think that's a dangerous world to be in as a girl and as a man, as a boy, you know, and it just worries me. I just worry for the future generation.
I know.
It really does
that
scare
is just
me.
like, yeah, that is a whole another thing, considering as well, like obviously we've got our kids growing into that as well.
Yeah.
But I think it is so nice though that it sounds like you've, you know, helped raise your, you know, the twins so well, and
I
it
hope
gives
so.
Gio such a good you know, people to look up to then.
100%.
So it's like that was like an investment in itself to raise those boys so well, and then hopefully Gio just follows suit. And it's,
absolutely.
It's so funny that he's getting girlfriends. So.
Oh yeah. It's a different one each week. Well, it was like so funny because it's Valentine's Day coming up, and I had a massive declutter in his room, and last year he had a Valentine's Day card and a little teddy from a girl in school that is his little crush, and vice versa. And I'd put it away in this memory box, and he's got an ottoman bed. And all of a sudden, I went in his room the other day, and he's displayed it all out. I went, "What are you doing?" He went, "Well, you packed it away." I don't want it packed. What was from last year? He was like, "No, I want it out." Like, so he's displayed his like little teddy and his Valentine's Day card out, and I was like, "Oh,
that
bless
is
him."
literally.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt for a second he'll definitely, you know, be a ladies' man, I'm sure.
God, well, you've got all that to come.
I've got it all
now.
to come. It's a whole new journey.
Honestly.
Because, but I hope that, you know, I'll never be one of those sort of boy mums who's like, oh, it's my boy, and it's, you know, I want to be.
You never know.
No, I think you've got to, you know,
you need to be like friendly.
You have to, because otherwise you will end up losing them.
Yes.
Because the fact of the matter is someone's going to take my place. As sad as it is, that, you know, as in he's going to get a wife, and they do, you know, tend to side with the wife, and it makes me sad. And I'm sure he'll always be, of course, like, you know, a mummy's boy. Yeah. But you always want to be a
good mum-in-law, because that's what I always find. I'm like, my mum-in-law always says to me, like, I'm so glad that you know, Oma found you, because it's like, because I get on so well with her, and I would never ever like, I always include her if I'm like, all right, do you want to see the girls, or do you want to do this and this, that and the other? And naturally you do go straight to your mum, don't you? But I see her equally like a mum. And I think if you find, as long as Gio finds the right partner, and who could not get on well with you as well, babe? Do you know what I mean?
So I'm like, I just want to go out shopping and do spa days, because I haven't got daughters.
There you go.
So for me, I thought, I look at it, it's like, I'm going to get a bonus daughter.
There you go.
You know, and I'm going to be an auntie this year as well.
Oh, yes,
and it's a girl.
Oh, amazing.
So,
there you go.
I know, I've got that to really look forward to. So I'm like, you know, I'm going to take her for like brunch in Saint-Tropez, show her the high life.
Oh, babe.
Yeah, so I'm like, we'll do little birthday trips to Paris and stuff. I've got it all planned out, because I'm like, you know, I'm going to set the standard high so she doesn't settle for any.
And that's your sister having.
That's my sister having. Yeah, she's having a little girl.
So that is so nice, so that it'll be like you, your sister, little girl, and then I bet Gio's going to be so protective over her.
He did want it to be a boy. I'm not sure why, because he wants a little sister.
Yeah, but you wait until she's here. He'll be sorted by her.
Oh God, yeah. And then she's surrounded by boys. I mean, I think it was the universe saving my future child, because if I'd have ever had a girl, she would have had Gio, Trevor, and the twins. Like, you know, and I just think what a life she would have led.
Honestly, do you know what, babe? I feel like we could just chat for hours on end, because we do
anyway.
Love a chat. But it's so nice to have you. Thank you so much for coming, and I just feel like you're so relatable in so many different aspects. And
I hope so.
But then you go on your Instagram and you just like, you got it all put together, and it just looks beautiful. But you're so real at the same time.
And I
so
do
that
share
is
that
so
on my
nice.
stories. Like, I make sure, you know, I keep it real.
But that's what I love about it, is the fact that you just make it real, and it's and anyone can make their home look pretty, beautiful, but around mum life and family life and everything. So
we ain't got it all figured out.
No. We're all just surviving.
We're all just learning and taking it day by day with a glass of sorry, babe.
always. Thank you so much for coming,
babe.
And I look forward to what you get up to this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.